Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Briareos Kerensky for a double feature. The review of Karous, The Beast of Re-Eden and Radirgy de Gojaru, two shot-em-ups for the 3DS. Karous for the 3DS came out a month ago or so, but I held the review back as the two games share many similarities, including their origins. The original Radirgy was published by Milestone on the Dreamcast, when Sega's last console was already out of production, followed by Karous, which is the last official game ever released for the console. While Radirgy found some degree of success, with 2 ports on the GameCube and PlayStation 2 and sequels on the Wii and the Xbox 360, Karous was quickly forgotten and only included in the Ultimate Shooting Collection on the Wii. On the Dreamcast, both games never quite lived up to other late shooters like Ikaruga or Border Down, and, in particular, Karous was rather unimpressive when compared to Radirgy. Radirgy Noah Massive on the X360 was better than the original, but again, it was forgettable amidst the other shooters available on the system. Incidentally, Radirgy Noah Massive was Milestone's last game in 2010, before they were shut down due to irregular financial activities. Enter Clone Limited. They acquired both game rights and developed games for the 3DS. The first to be released is Karous, as a physical cartridge. Radirgy de Gojaru follows a month later as a downloadable title. Both games are based on the same graphical engine, and just like their predecessors share some mechanics. The ship, or better, the robot, you control as a normal shot, a close-range sword, and a bomb that absorbs bullets and damages enemies at the same time. Bombs are unlimited, but there is a recharge time between uses. Based on that, each game takes a different approach to scoring and weapon mechanics, but what is completely changed between Dreamcast and 3DS versions is how the games are handled. Let's focus on Karous, The Beast of Re-Eden first. Karous 3DS shifts from being a vertical scrolling shooter with a fixed sequence of stages to a mission-oriented game, in a similar fashion to what Ketsui Black Label did on the DS. Available missions can be tackled in any order you want, and completing missions will open up new ones, until you get to a boss fight. Defeating a boss opens up a new degree, a set of 30 or so missions. Undertaking missions, whatever their outcome will be, grants experience points to your robot and to the weapons you have used. Experience points turn into levels, and levels turn into new, more powerful weapons and items to equip. Gone is the original Karous level system, as each mission is a completely separate entity and far too short to make it meaningful. One thing you might have noticed from the video are the constant slowdowns. This is Karous 3DS' biggest problem. Once an enemy wave is on screen and you start shooting, the frame rate drops dramatically, with advanced stages moving at half or even a third of the game's initial speed, which makes things more difficult than they should. Slowdowns in shot-em-ups, especially in bullet hells, are not a new thing, and good developers use those to give players a chance when bullet patterns are especially tricky. Karous 3DS, on the other hand, is constantly moving at a slow pace, and it's not a bullet hell. I found myself clenching the console in most advanced stages, hoping to get a faster movement out of the game, but of course this was not possible. The slowdowns in Karous 3DS do not help the game, they worsen it. The game doesn't slow during boss battles, and these fights are alright, but way too far in between. The rest of the game are the missions, unable to create a sustainable game. Mission-driven secondary modes in shot-em-ups are nothing new, but are secondary modes, and are often done in a way to provide an increasing challenge with new objectives. All missions in Karous 3DS feel like a training mode for a main game that's nowhere to be found, and due to the terrible slowdowns, they feel way too long, despite all of them being limited by a timer. With 100 or so missions, there is also a lack of variety. Missions asking you to destroy a certain amount of enemies with only one weapon are repeated throughout the game, and one mission in the first degree even asks you to equip one item and wait until the timer runs out. To the game's credit, there are certain interesting missions, like collecting high-level bonuses or use all your weapons to destroy color-coded crates, but the novelty wears out pretty quickly, as these objectives are repeated more than once. Really, how many missions do you need where you have to destroy enemies with your shield? Rather than quantity, developers should have focused on quality and variety of missions, maybe throwing in more frequent boss or sub-boss fights, and lengthening on missions, as with the exception of the last degree, everything is over in 5 minutes. This lack of polish is constant throughout the game. Graphics are very boring, with limited enemy variety, including their patterns. Karous' style was never spectacular, a mix of shade of greys and very dark colors, and it's repeated in Beast of Re-Eden as well. Graphics are clear, but the slightly slanted perspective often play tricks when moving around the edges of the screen, and a rather large portion of the two upper edges is not available for movement, a thing shared by Radirgy de Gojaru as well. The lower screen features, from left to right, top to bottom, your character's portrait, your robot's energy bar, score, time left and completion rate for the mission, bomb recharge bar, mission recap, equipped item, eject button, and random quotes from gamers that submitted them to clone. Talk about crowded, and talk about the important things, energy and bomb bars, having less importance than everything else. The interface, while not terrible at a first glance, lacks very important features. Once you are on the weapon select screen, you can't go back to the mission select screen. You cannot pause during missions. There isn't a retry option after failing a mission, forcing you to go through the debriefing screen, the things you have unlocked screen, the save screen, the mission screen, and the armament screen before retrying the same mission. Last, there is the music. It's done by a fellow that goes by the KHDN moniker, and after a brief research, apparently is a well-respected artist. For techno music. So yeah, I don't like it, plain and simple. I think that the music itself suffers from the game's structure, as no track is able to develop into anything more than very short, repetitive loops. Or maybe this fellow understood that the game is bad and gave the bare minimum to it. I just don't like the music. And then there is Radirgy de Gojaru. Sorry, such levels of intense action left me speechless. Radirgy 3DS is nothing more than you're seeing now. Static background, wave after wave of enemies, and all you have to do is to protect your base from being hit. Shoot types can be changed via the touchscreen, but there is no real reason on using anything else but the wide shot. The bomb mechanic changes from Karous, as it can be kept up almost indefinitely by absorbing bullets and touching enemies, like in the previous Radirgys. The game doesn't slow down as much as it did in Karous, and it looks much more similar to its roots, but this means there are less things on screen at a time, and, well, it's hard to keep going past the 5 minutes mark because everything becomes dull. It's also hard to attempt at higher scores multiple times, again because the game is incredibly dull. It's hard to say this, but Radirgy de Gojaru is even worse than Karous the Beast of Re-Eden. At least there you had things to unlock and some interesting missions, things that Radirgy de Gojaru is sorely missing. And I can't tell you anything else, or show anything else about Radirgy 3DS, as this is everything in the title. Yeah. Don't you dare to buy any of them. I hope you have enjoyed this double review and you'll stick around for more. Briareos Kerensky, over and out.